Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Birdbrain podcast, or also known how to play Derevi in 2024. Obviously have some pretty hot topics to chat about today, being bans, Duskmourn, and Mulligans. I'm sure you've heard enough about bans from everywhere else you've looked, but we'll have a little segment here on how it affects us specifically. As you can see, we have Nadu on the screen, so that's going to be a big one. But at the same time, also on screen, we have Envy and Clay, who are both here. So please say hello.
Hey guys.
Hey, yeah. So I just wanted to throw it out there. We had my last rest in peace to our Banlist tournament, top 16. Then my son was born, and I had to concede. So here I am, and let's talk about these new pieces of cardboard that we're all tearing up on streams because they're worthless, right?
I mean, I don't know about that. You can, they're worthless. I agree with that. I don't know that I want to tear them up. I will say personally, I'm not expecting things to come back, but Mana Crypt isn't a completely useless card like Jeweled Lotus is.
Yeah.
However, if you have been living under a rock for the past, week, the 4 cards that were banned were Nadu, Dockside, Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt. Now, the one that most is relevant to us is Nadu, because we all had a Nadu package in with Nomads and Core. Some people had like Lightning Greaves, some people put Shuko in. But it was something that we all saw great use out of. Do we care that this is gone? Because personally, Nadu is nice having you, but I got other things I can do. It's not a big deal, honestly.
Yeah, it hurt a little bit, but like I still think like overall, we came out kind of on top of after everything.
Yeah. Credits due, Nadu. You did a great job. You were our best value engine and very easy to tutor for, but
Nadu was insane. Nadu was really good for our deck. No questions asked. There's no doubt about it. But the reality is, before Nadu was printed, our deck was still, in the metagame. I mean, sure, we're fringe, but we've been here. We've been playing. We've been putting up results. Heck, Ian's top 16 and Tyler's top 1 in the, what was it, Chaos, I believe? They were both pre-Nadu.
Combat step? Yeah.
Right, but they were both pre-Nadu. They both played, so it's not like we don't have any game. Oh, because we lost this really powerful engine. Yeah, we did. But guess what? All the other decks in the format lost an even bigger engine in Dockside Extortionist. And that ban doesn't affect us at all. So yeah, we're going down a little bit. But, oh no, we lost Nadu. And now, the best part about the pulling Nadu is that we any package we put with it, we just made 3 or 4 slots in our deck that now we can spice it up. We can play some new cards. We can try some new things. Because one of the problems that I was having was trying to just build a list that, had everything I wanted in it and a little bit of extra and some interaction. And I'm like, oh, this card is so good, but where do I put it? I just suddenly got 3 slots that I could do whatever I wanted with, and I'm off to the races.
I was on the fence for like 3 cards, and then I had 3 cards forcefully opened up in my deck, and I went, "Oh, okay, sure."
Right? Yeah, that's where I was too. And then the other thing about it is, the other one of these that I really want to talk about is, yeah, we lost Mana Crypt. Oh well, Mana Crypt was really clunky for us in the early turns. We didn't really want to see it until, turn 3 anyway, so I didn't really care, and it was very rare that I would tutor for it. So yeah, it was nice to have, but
it was good to have
early. Go for.
And it can help power out things like an early Trinisphere, an early Rhystic Study. Yep. I mean, turn 1 Rhystic, everyone knows that,
but I never felt like that was my game plan. That was what I wanted to do. That was so because our first 2 turns are all about getting our pips online to be able to play stuff. Because we're so color pip and hungry, like everything we do, it just wants those colors. And then Dockside. I think I used to say we need 2 to 4 clones. I think now it's just we need 2 to 3 clones. Clones are still really good for us. We should still be playing clones. They make a lot of our combos. I mean, Grand Abolishers are still being played by other players. OBMs are still being played by other players. There's still tons of good clone targets. Yeah, there's not a dockside. Whatever.
I think that the Nadu package was overall helping us keep up with Dockside and as the overall meta, but now with both gone, obviously we're doing pretty all right. I do agree with you as for clones. I'm still running 3 myself. I know before we started recording, we had mentioned, recommended was 2 to 3 because ultimately we really value off-color permanence for Bloom Tender-like effects, and at the same time, a lot of commanders these days are outlets in the command zone. One of your opponents is probably on one of these things, and you can clone their commander and say it's an Agila. Congratulations, infinite combat steps. If you have a Kinnan, depending on your list, you may just win the game. These things, Captain Sisay, 5 color, legendary permanents. Yeah, I've got a couple of those. We can go fetch those out. So, we can very, very easily utilize a lot of what our opponents are doing. So clones are still good for us. In other decks, I would say, yeah, there's not going to be docksides to copy and win the game instantly with. You want it going to go down or 2, 1 or 2. But for us, we definitely want to stay on the clone plan.
Yeah, I just think it's 2 to 3 instead of 2 to 4. So.
Yep, fully agree.
It's fully understandable. I will add a caveat to the whole mana crypt thing. I did, because like a lot of people were talking about in the Discord, they were testing Valley Flood Caller with Retraction Helix and Vanishing Neck with Mana Crypt, 0 mana rocks, because of the untappability that it has with Valley Flood Caller.
Mm-hmm.
It got significantly worse with the Mana Crypt band.
I don't. Okay,
Well,
I can talk to that.
You just need a positive rock.
Yeah, it's not unplayable, but it got worse with it.
Yes, it's less consistent.
It did. I've been big on that line. I forced that line into my deck and I've been playing it. Here's what I've figured out about that line. Yeah, it can win a game. It wins a game at instant speed, but it's not really anything I ever go for. Valley Floodcaller alone breaks parity on Deafening Silence and Rule of Law and any kind of stacks piece like that comes down. It allows me to play each turn. Even a single Eldritch Evolution or Neoform cast at sorcery speed is incredible for our deck. It allows us to keep mana untapped as we go around the table, and then we can cast those things. It allows us to use our Finale of Devastation mid-combat as though it was a Court of Calling. It allows me to play out my rocks at a slower pace or at a less restricted pace or around a Blind Obedience. So instead of tapping out on my turn to play out all my rocks, I can put the Valley Flood Caller out and then there into the Blind Obedience. Cool, it doesn't matter that it's tapped. And then I can cast it out, cast out all my rocks before I untap, right? Instead of, just being completely tapped down for a turn cycle. I really do think the card is worth a slot, and even better is that the one thing that when we spoiled this card that would really make or break this card was that second effect on it, which is the untap effect, and how well we can use that. And with Retraction Helix and Banishing Knack, which simply slot over a couple removal pieces in your deck, it's a really good engine in the deck. And if you happen to have Mockingbird or Birds of Paradise in play, it can easily go infinite without actually needing to be the artifact combo.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. It's something I'm probably gonna test with after my current testing for this post ban. I think it's something I'm gonna go probably back to once I see how the meta shapes up.
I think for you it'll work well because you really like your Blind Obedience lines, if I recall correctly. So, to me, that just seems smart. You will need a way to convert the colorless into white for the extort, though. Maybe like a Relic of Legends or something. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I'm gonna test what I currently have, see what I like, what I don't like, and then I'm gonna make probably adjustments from there, which probably is a good segue into our next topic of what we're slotting in instead of the cards that we took out for these bans.
Yeah. Absolutely. That Valley Flood Collar combo line is what I was testing before. There's another line that goes side by side with it, which is the Kitten to 3 Fury combo. Kitten and Banishing Knack and also creates a combo that works in the exact same way as the Valley Flood Collar. If you have Derevi in play, you can cash the Banishing Knack on the Kitten itself, as long as it doesn't have Summoning Sickness. And then or any creature you have that doesn't have Summoning Sickness, and you can tap that creature to bounce the rock, and then replay the rock, flickering Derevi to untap the creature that was bouncing. And so you can create the same combo with Kitten instead of Valley Flood Collar, as long as you also have Derevi in play, which, I mean, we try to keep Derevi on the board a lot of the time
As much
throughout
as we
games
can
anyway.
for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, because he's a value engine. So unless we're intentionally trying to abuse his activated ability for a combo loop, we generally value him out. He might stay in the command zone a little while after he gets killed once or twice, but because of that, I slotted in 3 Fairy, Carpet of Flowers, and Kitten was my initial. I'm pulling these 3 banned cards out, which was, I mean, I guess Nomads and Core wasn't banned, but it's useless without Nadu, right? So
It
I
is
dropped
the
those
dead
3
card.
in.
People called it
Yeah.
without Nadu, yeah.
I dropped those 3 in,
Yes.
and I ran with it. I've been liking it. I'm not used to playing with Kitten combo in my deck, so it's caused me to have some situations where I went wrong. Like, I should have gone for a Kitten line. Instead, I went for an Emil line because it felt more comfortable. And because I used the Emil line, I had to remove a stacks piece, and that allowed someone else to win. Whereas if I'd gone for the Kitten line, I could have played through the stacks. That kind of stuff. So it hasn't been super performing for me, but in hindsight, I should have used it instead, and so I wanted to have it. That was what I went. That was where I went with this change, because I was already on Flood Collar and Banishing Knack. I think that combo is really good, but do not overvalue Banishing Knack and Retraction Helix as combo pieces. They are removal pieces first, combo pieces second.
Yeah, they're kind of like the like Sink into Stupor, where you can't be afraid to play it as the land
Yeah.
if it's in your hand, you know? As for
Definitely.
my replacements for the bands, it was really easy for me. I was testing out fitting a couple more clones in. I ended up cutting Toski and Haywire Might, and then the slots opened back up, and I went, yeah, okay, I'd like to have those back. So they came right back in. Very happy to have them still. I am currently debating a number of changes because obviously things are slowing down with these hyper accelerants gone, but I haven't made anything permanent yet. I think I'd like to go up Mox Amber these days. I've always had a disdain for it with its poor early game, being we don't have a lot of legendary permanents early until we have Derevi usually, so it never helps you cast Derevi. But and then you couldn't compete with the fast decks because you had a dead Mox Diamond basically in hand. But now you can worry slightly less about that, so I think Mox Amber gets a lot more value. And then I was also considering Deadeye, because I saw that obviously Ian recently returned to Derevi, and he was on Deadeye, and I think now with more turns in a game on average, because everyone's saying the format slowed by like a turn and a half, if not more. And going infinite with a 3 mana permanent is a little easier, even if it's green and white mana only, because you would need to fix the blue somehow, else you only get green and white infinite. But that's what I'm considering. What about you, Envy?
I kind of didn't. I pulled a lot and I changed quite a bit. So I took out all of my artifact ETB stack or ETB's tapped stuff except for blind obedience. I took all that out. I took out all of my Nadu stuff and mana crypt, and it ended up like giving me like 7 or 8 cards to put through. So I'm testing Eldrazi Displacer again. I put that back in. I added a couple more mana rocks. I added like Grim Monolith, and I think a couple more 2 mana rocks to be able to help support that and copy artifact. I'm counting that as my asterisk, my 4th clone. Because being able to copy someone's mana vault or someone's Grim Monolith or something like that to be able to combo with Eldrazi Displacer is very very good. And then I also went up on Heliod Ballista. I'm gonna try that out instead of I cut Eternal Witness Snap out of my list.
I am a fan
I'm
of
gonna
those
try it.
changes. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with Heliod and Ballista. Are you on Cauldron for Heliod as well?
I am not. I'm just testing the Heliod Ballista right now to see because I'm also on shared summons, so I could just
Okay.
5 minutes jam shared summons, go get Heliod Ballista, and just go for a win attempt after that.
And are you
So-
on Mox Opal these days?
I not on Mox Opal.
Okay.
I think I need one more artifact. 'Cause I'm on 13 or technically 15 artifacts with Metamorph and Sentinel, but and I guess technically copy artifact too. But so I would like to be up to 15 before I run Mox Opal. So I need like one more artifact, and I'm testing to see how this goes. I also slotted in back in Draenith and Endurance. I think, at least in my meta, there's a lot of Breach. And I feel like it's going to get more heavy into Breach. So having ways to fight that with Draenith, Endurance, and Aven Interrupter will be pretty good.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Those 3 cards were my initial. This is the ban. Let's change these. But my later pull is I did also pull all of my artifact tap stuff, and I started redoing my stacks because I think that the metagame for stacks is going to change. I think we're going to have Rule of Law and Deafening Silence are going to be very good stacks pieces for our deck. And my new spice that I'm testing on top of everything is instead of playing Mana Dorks, I'm gonna take some of the cards that were in the old Nadu deck that were supporting Nadu, and I'm gonna start using them. So I'm gonna start playing my untappers like a Phaedo Alchemist and maybe even Kiora's Follower as Mana Dorks instead, so I can just untap my lands or my creatures or my artifacts and use those as my Mana Dorks. And then with that, I'm playing Unctus and I'm testing Whiskervale Forerunner to create a better, I guess, engine outside of Derevi that loots through my deck. So that's what I'm trying. That's my spice coming up here, going into the next couple months of play.
Is there any other stacks pieces we probably should be talking about?
Stasis.
Stasis, yes, it got significantly. Stasis got better with this ban. Once the beta slows down a little bit, instantly got. I'm still not a big fan of it, but I do agree that it got better. Linvala also. I've been seeing a lot of Magda has been doing really well. Actually, surprised. I never would have guessed that Magda would have came out on top from this, but it makes sense. And being able to hate activated abilities on from your opponents is probably going to be very good as well.
Sisei
Going
Kennen,
into the
any
meta.
Thrasios list.
Absolutely.
Magda. Linvala has always been good for us. It's just as good now as it was. In fact, it's probably better because we're going to see less Blue Farm and less Rogsai because while those decks are still going to be represented, while those decks are still good, they're not the arguable end-all be-all because they don't have Dockside propping them up.
I don't think Rogsai really needed Dockside. I think still Rogsai is going to be like a heavy hitter, but I
Yeah,
think Blue
Dockside was
Farm
for
is not
fixing
going to
for
be
them,
as
less so than quantity of
yeah.
mana. I do
That
think
fixing
that we're
is
going
important.
to see Drana and Linvala from our opposition that are in white and black for the same reason that we just described that Linvala, Keeper of Silence being great. So that's something you should prepare to play against as well, because that also hoses us.
Yeah, definitely.
I-
And then probably also keeping an eye out. I have been hearing specs when people playing Blood Moon effects, Winter Warp effects, Harbinger of Harbinger, not Harbinger of Tides, Harbinger of the Sea. Is that the Merfolk?
Harbinger of the Flood, I believe.
Whatever. It's the
Yeah.
blue 3-mana blue moon
Yeah.
for. It's like Magus of the Moon, only blue. Harbinger of the Seas.
It is Harbinger of the Seas. You were correct.
Yeah. So if your
People call it
meta
Flood
is
Moon. That's why I was thinking.
yeah, that's fair. But if your meta is mostly like low color based, like a Tali or uh Godo or something like that that needs like a little slower mana or a slower game plan now, they're probably going to be leaning more towards like Blood Moon and those types of effects to be able to get back into where they were at. So maybe teching a basic against that just to be safe.
I did mention I'm back on Haywire Might. He wasn't gone for very long, but his place is to eat blood moons.
I do
Definitely.
think Urza Saga goes up in value in the new meta without Mana Crypt, simply because it can grab
Soul Ring.
your Soul
Straight
Ring
up.
out of the deck or any of your 0 mana rocks that you're now playing to become a colored source later on. So if you want to use Haywire Might as a tech piece, I think it's a really good option for you there also to be able to grab that tech piece. I do think we may see a rise in Grafdigger's Cage. I don't think we should play it, but I do think we'll see a rise in it. So if you see an Urza Saga on the other side of the field, be aware that that very well might be what it's going for. Kennen got a big power boost out of the meta shift, and therefore I expect decks that can afford to play it are going to play Grafdiggers because it hoses the remaining Breach decks and it hoses Kennen to force them to have to do something different with their plan. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more Grafdiggers, more Blood Moons, or Rules of Law, back to basics even. These are cards I expect to see coming out of the metagame as it slows down, because decks that used to use them to slow the game down even further, that were no longer able to keep up, are going to bring them back to slow the game down even further. So
A lot of those cards were worse because of Dockside. Also,
yep,
because if you're locked down by a Blood Moon, you'd be like, oh, cast a Dockside. Well, I don't care about my lands being mountains because I have all my colors because of my treasures.
yep,
With that being gone, don't really need to worry about that anymore.
yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those cards coming back and getting thrown
Definitely.
at us. I think you're going to see Blood Pod make a resurgence. TNT is going to become a little bit more popular. Yeah. Yuriko. I think
I've
Yuriko's
heard
coming back.
Jericho stocks are up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Kennen.
I think Kennen, Yuriko, surprisingly
Basically,
Magda, us,
yeah.
we came out pretty well from this.
Yeah.
Any
Timna
like
Thras,
not
obviously.
Timnath Ras. Any not red deck that wasn't really uh, reliant on like Dockside too hard, I think, kind of came out like pretty well from all this.
Yeah, the non-red decks, the decks that were not playing the King of Splash red, are definitely going to come up better. I expect we're going to see more Esper, 2-3 color blue decks
We're going to see a lot more Thoracle combo. Absolutely.
that are not blue red are going to
Mm-hmm.
be more common. Yeah, Thoracle combo is going to be a thing. I did pull my Elish Norn. I'm still on the fence about Elish Norn at 5 mana. She's kind of expensive. I mean, Eldritch Evolutioning into her is great, but I really did play it to stop Dockside ETB. It does have the added benefit of stopping Thoracle, which matters from time to time, but as the big lover of Elish Norn, I pulled her because I don't think she's going to be very good stacks for me going into this metagame. I think that the best way to deal with Thoracle is going to be counter magic or deafening silence and counter magic or something. You might consider Lauren going back into lists at 3 mana.
I love
Pretty
Lauren.
good.
Lauren's fantastic.
It's a pretty good hedged bet against Thoracle combo. I mean, obviously, if they use Tainted Pact, they can play around it, but at least you force them to have the 4th mana and 1 of 2 cards instead of 2 of 2 cards. And then, if you can afford it, Cephalid Coliseum and or possibly even Endurance Loops might be a way to go for a win con for our deck if you can fit those cards in your slot, or if you're already running Endurance because you think it's good into your meta, it might be a way to go for an alternate win con, just so that you have a little bit more of a buffer against Thoracle combo. Because yeah, we're definitely going to see more Thoracle combo in the coming days. It's a little bit easier to deal with than Breach was. That's why Breach was favored. But Breach and Red in general is weaker now. So
Definitely. All
Well,
right.
shall we get into our Duskmourn review then?
Yeah, we'll try to go through this pretty quick because there's not that much to talk about, surprisingly.
No, we haven't been blessed with as many new entries in this set as we have with others. But first up, we do have Enduring Curiosity. It's 2 and 2 blue for an enchantment creature. It's a cat glimmer. It's got Flash, which is nifty. You can use your combat mana to cast this. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then all the Endurings have this last effect, which is when it dies, if it was a creature, it returns to the battlefield as an enchantment, no longer a creature. Fellas, have you seen that line of text anywhere? Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Is that anywhere we might know?
Oh, there's a squirrel, I think. What is that? I mean, yeah, I think it's a squirrel, right?
Toski's great. Notably, at the same mana cost, this also is old Bident of Thassa.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, don't you mean Bident of Thassa?
Yeah. For the old guard out there that remembers those days.
I think this card is interesting. I think it has some really cool things going for it with Flash and coming back as an enchantment, which isn't a big deal anymore because there's no dockside to punish us for having a bunch of enchantments. What I don't like about this card is it is a 4 power, which seems like a reason to like it, but because it doesn't synergize with Delny, or heck, if you're still playing Recruiter of the Guard as a tutor, you can't go get this because it's got 3 toughness. Like, there's just a lot of things about that stat line that I just don't like, but I do. It's kind of this conflict inside me. But it's double pips for its casting cost, which makes it a little bit harder. And it itself is an enchantment, which means it itself can get blown up by enchantment removal, which I do think will be, even as a creature, will be added. And I really like Toski as an indestructible, uncounterable, at the same mana cost, doubled by Delny creature.
Yeah, I do love Toski being indestructible. Yes, we see Toxic Deluge a lot. He'll still die to that. However, turns out we untap things, and this will also die, yes. But, I mean, it returns as an enchantment. But, you know, Toski's a blocker. You can untap that bad boy, and you can block anything, whether it's on, as long as it's on the ground.
Now, if we're slow enough to play Toski, and we're slow enough to play a second 4-drop that draws cards, this is where I go. Well, I agree, this is the card to play, but the Flash, maybe the Flash is the reason this card's better. But I really think the uncounterability is the reason that Toski is better.
Absolutely.
That's definitely fair. Because I mean, even though like it's still they need to at least kill it twice. They need to have a creature or enchantment removal spell the first time, and then specifically an enchantment removal spell the second time. And even if they bounce it back to your hand, it comes back still as a creature. So like, and it
is still very resilient.
Yeah, it's surprisingly very resilient.
The most commonly played creature removal in our format is swords. The second most is probably a board wipe. And the third most is probably path. Most of the time, unless it's
probably getting bounced. Yeah.
It's going to get bounced, picked apart by OBM. The only circumstance this thing actually sticks around, like as an enchantment, is if OBM shoots it. And if I had an OBM, I'm not shooting that. That's just going to give me more OBM triggers, and I can't kill it anyway. I'm just wasting my shots. I'll just start shooting the player that's running it.
Yeah.
It's the most common ways that it's going to get removed is that it's going to get bounced or board wiped. And in the case of a board wipe, this is cool. It comes back. But that third clause, the enduring clause, is probably not going to matter most of the time to removal that's played in our format.
No, that's all fair. I was just like bringing up like they do.
It can get hit by both Swan Song and Strix.
This is true. Yes. But not Stern Scolding.
Yeah, Stern Scolding.
Yeah,
oh man, great counterspell, Stern Scolding. Yeah.
So, Yeah,
Well,
what's next?
we can go from our moderately decent card to the only card I've actually tested out of the set so far, Kona, Rescue Beastie. Another legendary creature. This one's a beast survivor, and he's 3 and a green. Same stat line at 4/3, and he has survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Kona, Rescue Beastie is tapped, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. We're looking at a mini Kodama right here, gentlemen.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
oof.
really good.
Hmm.
I'm gonna end up slotting it in probably once I figure out like what's good, what's not good in my list, and then this is probably gonna be like the first thing that's gonna get added in.
I don't. Go on.
So I literally won a game with this card tonight, earlier this evening, because I kept I kept an opening hand with it, Trop and Manifold. So turn 2 Kona, turn 3 I ended up drawing Smothering Tithe off the top and putting that into play. Turns out that's a pretty good play in these slow grindy metas. I made like 40 treasures. It won me the game ultimately, but
I really like this card. I'm a big fan of anything that lets us cheat mana. Even though we're a big mana deck, the ability to cheat mana still lets us keep our mana for other things. What I really like about Kona, though, is the fact that it's not casting that spell; it's just putting it into play. Which means it's dodging all the counter spells, it's dodging all the stacks effects like Rule Law, whatever. It's just slamming it into play. So I really like the idea that we can cast Kona, then we can go to combat with Derevi and tap it, and then go to our post-combat main phase and throw something into play right then and there, whether that's our Chromatic Ori, and then we're going to go to try to win the game. Heck, even if that's a One Ring, anything to get some free mana into play there. I'm a big fan of this card. I don't know where it fits in our average deck, however, because as a 4-drop, it has too many hoops to win the game.
I think it's a good support piece. Like you're right. It's very often not going to be the card winning you the game. It could put in like a Grand Abolisher, which would close the window pretty quick on people trying to interact with you.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
at the same time, you do have to have the card in your hand. It doesn't draw any cards on its own, and it's basically if you don't have a permanent card, say your hand is loaded with counter spells, this is a vanilla 4/3 creature.
Yeah.
So it's definitely got a not low floor, but it's not always a hit. But I think the highs are incredibly high.
Oh yeah, it's a good card.
Yeah.
If you got a flex slot and you're looking for something unique to do, this is a good option. I will also say I believe that this is going to play much better in stacks lists than in our average turbo leaning mid range list. This is my opinion. I haven't had a lot of testing with it yet, but that's my opinion on it because if we're playing stacks effects like Tangle Wire, Trinisphere,
The first
Static
thing I put into
Orb,
play with this bad boy was
Winter Orb,
Trinisphere. It
right?
felt great.
But
Yeah.
if we're playing things that are depleting resources and preventing stuff, or heck, if you're playing Stasis, once this is tapped, you get a free spell every turn. Like, yes, please. So there are a lot of reasons that this is going to be a good card. I think it's going to just be better in a stacks list than it will be in a turbo leaning mid range list.
I could definitely agree with that. I will say what makes this somewhat interesting is that it's one of the cards that they printed besides like Nadu in like the last couple sets that fits both in the stack shell and in the mid range shell, which is like really like it's
Yeah, we
really
don't see that
interesting.
often.
Yeah, it's like most of the time, like you either like want to do like the turbo mid range and you want to try to like jam your wins as like turn 3, turn 4 as soon as possible. And this can like help you do that if you like tutor, like I said, Chromatic Ori or Emil or any of your A plus B combos. Or it could literally just put Smothering Tide, or it could put Trinisphere, or
Second land
instant
drop,
stacks.
it's all
Yes,
sorts of
yeah,
things.
it could put your guy's cradle into play, or like a Manama or a One Ring. It does a lot. It's very very flexible, and like it's just something I recommend everyone probably try at one point in their list. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But pretty pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. The metagame is really going to determine which lists this can be played in, but I think anyone who does resolve it is going to have a fun time with the results. And if it's good enough, will be proven as we go on. But dodging the stack is a really powerful way for us to play the game. So
I like our strength and
Exactly.
abilities, and our strength and abilities is
Yes.
further exacerbated by our next card, Marvin Murderous Mimic. It's a 2 generic mana. It's a legendary creature, 2/2, and it simply has all the activated abilities of creatures you control that don't have the same name as this creature. This is the Agatha's Soul Cauldron at home, except at home it's on board. You know, you have your Summoning 6 Selvala, but Marvin's been around. Congratulations, he's got a new ability. You cast turn 1 Marvin Murderous Mimic through a Soul Ring, and turn 2 you put down a Captain Sisay. Congratulations, you can tutor up instantly on turn 2. Go get that Cradle.
in our average list, I don't think this is actually that good. In our average list, which
I
is
actually fully
our
agree.
core in our core package. But I do think that if you want to use this as a tech piece, there are some very, very good options to add to your deck that will turn this into an incredible piece for you. Because honestly, if you play this out and then you play a Bloom Tinder out on a later turn, I would rather just had the Bloom Tinder to begin with. But now that I've got both, people are going to be freaking out about killing them, and they're going to kill the Bloom Tender first, and then I'm going to lose both of them, basically. That kind of thing happens. It's really cool for giving Sisay, haste, as you mentioned. I think that this card is definitely something to keep your eye on. I think if you're already playing Agatha Soul Cauldron, it's possible that this is actually better for you, or that this should be played with it. But our generic, typical activated abilities that we have, Emil, Kennen, the Mana Dorks, Fairy Mastermind, that's our typical list activated abilities. Then Marvin's not really gonna do too much on top of that. Yeah, technically another Bloom Tender is awesome, but is it really what we want to be when they could just kill the one Bloom Tender and we lose them both? So I think it's good. I think it definitely has a tech slot. I don't think it's a core card for us by any means.
Yeah, I somewhat agree with that. I am in the camp of, if you're playing Agatha Soul Cauldron lines, I think you should be on this, honestly, because having a second pseudo copy of that effect is really good. Just like, because I know J. Collins is on Sid Curse Fairy and Bloom Tender, like that. Just if you have both those on board, that just wins the game by itself with this.
Well, you need an outlet
And
still, but
well, yeah, but like it makes infinite mana. Um, just it does similar things to Agatha Soul Cauldron. It does somewhat similar play patterns with it. So if you're already on that, it's probably something you should be playing along with it. It just works a little on a little bit different axis with it having to be on the battlefield, but I still think it's fine. It's a good card. If I ever go to the Soul Cauldron side, I'll probably try it out.
Well, my note is not it's not if you're just playing Soul Cauldron. It's if you're actually playing Soul Cauldron lines. Because I play Soul Cauldron as a recursion piece, as a tech piece, and as a hate piece, a graveyard hate piece in my deck. But I don't play the Sleep Cursed Fairy. I don't play any specific line that requires Soul Cauldron. And for that reason, I don't think Marvin is super beneficial to me.
Uh,
Um,
that's kind of what I was implying. I'm sorry. I
yeah,
meant like if you're playing
I just wanted to
lines
clarify.
specifically for, yeah, no, you're all good. If you're playing lines specifically for it, I think you should most likely be playing this along with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. But I mean, it's still good. It's something you can mess around with, and I think it'll be, well, time will tell. Let's see if whether or not it ends up working out or not.
This is onboard Necrotic Ooze. Necrotic Ooze being long-term known card for some weird deck is going to make this work. And I kind of feel the same way about this. That weird deck might be us, but I'm just not quite ready for it.
It's probably Sisay. Sisays are using this to replace their explosive docksides, basically.
Got you.
So.
Well,
and I mean, green-white Sisay is going to love it because it's going to make their 4-mana commander not have summoning sickness.
Very true. Our last normal card out of the set is the Wandering Rescuer. 3 and 2 white for a legendary creature, human, samurai, noble. Flash, convoke, double strike, other tap creatures you control have hexproof. I do not care about double strike at all in this card. It is nifty, but obviously you want other tapped creatures you control have hexproof with Flash and convoke. This is a protection spell on a body. It is kind of awkward to put it out in a non-gotcha scenario, in my opinion. But in ways that we can protect our Emil, ways that we can protect our key combo creature piece while we're comboing off and having this as a potentially free, all right, we're here to actually win the game, I think it has some consideration. I haven't found the slot for this quite yet in my deck, but it's definitely in the back of my mind of if I need to interact with more spells. Although that said, I might just put in an actual counterspell at that point, but this theoretically protects from multiple spells pointed at your creatures. What do you guys think?
Mostly just because, like, yeah, you need to have, if you want to cast it for free, you need to have 5 untapped creatures. That's a little bit of an ask on it, and it only works for like tapped creatures. I think there is another one that's out there. It's a green Viper, the one that like you can tap or untap a target creature. It gives like tapped creatures death touch or untapped creatures hexproof or something like that. It works very similarly, and we're not playing that at the moment. This is a little bit better than that, but like it's because this taps the creatures itself, but it's like it's not fantastic, honestly. I'm not like too excited about it. Like I think if you're more on like the creature stack space plan, I think this would be a lot better than that.
Yeah, it might be it might be super good in a Deafening Silence shell, because it's a creature. I'm not sure if it has a place, because I'm not sure if this is an effect we need. The double strike is kind of cool because it's 2 untaps, but yeah, for the other effect, I'm just not sure if it's something we need or not. I will say that this is probably a really good card for the high-powered Derevi. I'm just not sure if it's good enough for CDH Derevi.
All very good assessment.
Yeah, and I would love to be proven wrong. Watch me get blown up by a Fire Covenant or something like that, and I would be like, man, I wish I had Wandering Rescuer, and that would have been great.
Oh man, I'm playing Unsettled Mariner for my my Fire Covenant protection right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian, for the idea.
Yeah. That's definitely.
Shall we look at some rooms, gentlemen?
Yeah. Let's go to some rooms.
So these are the only rooms I found that were suitable for consideration, but I think that they're all in the very much maybe slot. So help me with your thoughts here. First up, we have Mirror Room and Fractured Realm. Mirror Room is 2 and a blue. Fractured Realm is 5 and blue. You may cast either side when you cast this card, but not both. Notably, once it resolves and is on the field, unlocking the other side is still the same amount of mana as a sorcerer speed action, but it is a special action. It does not use the stack, and your opponents cannot respond to it. So if you put 2 and a blue down for effectively a clone, when you unlock this door, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except its reflection in addition to its other creature types. Later, when you decide to spend 7 mana at sorcery speed, you have a trigger doubler that cannot be interacted with. You'd have to get it bounced, but even like they can't do it in response. It would just have to be at some point before and or after. So
I
what do
don't
you,
think at 7 mana
it's a
for
lot.
the doubler, at 7 mana for the doubler, I don't think this is playable because Mirror Room says creature you control. If it allowed you to clone any creature, I think maybe you could arguably play this, but it's sorcery speed for the 7 mana, and it's sorcery speed for the 7 mana.
Yeah. No, I agree with
Yeah.
that. We'd look for our trigger doublers because they can be very powerful in Derevi. Things like Delny, Roaming Throne, sometimes even, Elishnorn. But I don't know, this is a big ask. 7 mana is a lot, especially in our format.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up we have
I'm kind of
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was kind of in the same boat where it's like the special action is very, very key for how you evaluate these cards because being able to play for the cheap half and then using the special action to be able to unlock the more expensive half is very, very good, but you want it on a really good effect. And I mean, if you unlock this in your main phase 1 and then go to your combat and then it just gets bounced in combat, you waste 7 mana.
Very true. Well, next up, we actually have one room for each of our colors, which I thought was fun. Next up, we have our green option: Walk-in Closet and Forgotten Cellar. It's 2 and a green for the closet, 3 and 2 green for the Forgotten Cellar. So we're up to 5 mana, not 7. Walk-in Closet is an enchantment that says you may play lands from your graveyard. It's Crucible of Worlds. Good for getting your fetches, for all 6 of your typed lands, probably. You might be on more now with Surveil lands.
All 6. 6. Especially 6. We
At
should
least
definitely
6.
play 6. No. 6. We should definitely play 6. I think that this card is a card that belongs in a Derevi shell that is running 6 specifically.
Oh, you want
Because
6 the creature. I thought you were saying 6 type lands. I see.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
I think that Forgotten Cellar is probably the only door that I saw that is going to be at all relevant in our format. And I don't even know if it's
green.
I don't even know.
Wills.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's good enough to be in our format or not. But with the combination of 6 and Shifting Woodlands and some fetch lands, the Walk-in Closet is not a terrible plan. And the Forgotten Cellar is an incredible plan for a combo turn that it works as a recursion piece. I can see a world where you drop this Walk-in Closet somewhat early in the game. You ramp a little bit from having a fetch land in your yard, and then the game goes on. The game slogs on from some stacks pieces. They interact with you. They kill your thing, and then you're just like, I've been playing a land every turn. I've missed no land drops because I've had this Walk-in Closet. Spending 5 mana on Forgotten Cellar, that's nothing. I'm gonna recur my Emil from the graveyard. Good game, right?
I have been on record recently saying that cards like Shifting Woodlands, very hard to get Delirium and Bant. We have an entire set around filling our graveyard now, so we might have gotten some more support with this set specifically. I know there's another one. There's a green card that just mills you every turn. There's a blue-green card that will do loot at your end step. I don't think those cards necessarily make our lists by any means, but I think, like you said, with 6, which was already a good value engine, but just kind of felt slightly out of place, this really makes it feel at home. And, I mean, yeah, Yawgmoth Whale, very good. But even the incidental, when you play lands from your graveyard, someone besages your cradle. Okay, I'll play it from the yard. Someone does it again. Congratulations, you can still play lands from your graveyard if you have a land drop. They'd have to exile it, and it's like Territory Forge or something, the 4 and a red artifact. That thing lives in my nightmares, but I don't think we see it very often, luckily.
Oh, no, I didn't even know that card existed. I'm not gonna lie.
I've seen it in some Droid lists. It's a little wacky, but I don't. Yeah. Not something you want to be on the receiving end of, but it's a good recursion for our land-based strategies. Yogg-Will is very good. Green is is a color that's easy to pump out mana because I mean I've tapped a Cradle for 5 green before. It's that simple.
Oh yeah.
I think this has a place.
Yeah, I
It
think this is
definitely
a build around me. I think this is one of those cards that, like a lot of cards for our deck, if you want to play with them, you can build a very good, very competitive deck built around a specific thing. So you take the core, you throw this in, and you build around this card for your remaining synergies, and you throw it out there. Like right now, my synergies that I'm building around is that Valley Flood Caller, that that Unctus Untap. That's the synergy I'm building around. And so you could just as easily pull all those lines out of my deck, throw in 6, throw in Shifting Woodlands, throw in that kind of stuff, and go to town, and it'd be a good deck.
Do we know how this interacts with Shifting Woodlands if it's in the graveyard? Do you get both rooms, or do you get neither? Like
You get
Neither.
neither room.
Okay.
So if you turned Shifting Woodland into this while it was in the graveyard,
Both doors would be locked.
Both doors would be locked. You'd have to spend the mana to unlock the doors.
And at the same
I was
time,
gonna
if
say,
you
if,
blink
like-
it, that also returns both sides locked.
Okay.
Which might be relevant for resetting Forgotten Cellar and using it a second time. But
You're gonna need a
definitely,
dedicated blink card for that, but it'd be difficult, but not impossible.
I mean, you could Retraction Helix it back to your hand or reset it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good card, I think. If you're on that grind plan, having a Yogg-Will or a Guy's Will in you, like having access to it is very good. I don't know, man. It's technically 8 mana or 5 mana, depending on how you look at it. It's 8 mana if you want to uncounterably somewhat. Like, it's a lot of mana, dude. I will say, I really want to play it in like an Adnos shell. That sounds so.
This
funny,
is in
but
an Adnos shell, so that'll
Yeah.
fucking eat you alive if you hit it. But
well, I mean, like people were playing PETA and Adnos shells, so like I have no fear. But I think like playing this in an Adnos shell would be like an Eker Prom, or like I guess
I fully
Prom's not
respect
the threat
the "I am
anymore.
not a coward" approach.
Yeah, but like having an uncountable Yawgmoth Will, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, the last room we have is Dazzling Theater and Prop Room. 3 and a white for one side, 2 and a white for the other. Creature spells, you have Cast Convoke and untap each creature you control during each other's untap step. We kind of touched on Convoke with the Wandering Rescuer. Obviously, we have a lot of creature spells in our deck on average, so using them to help pay for more creatures is not terrible. And then it has a pseudo Seedborn effect, where untap each creature you control during each other player's untap step. Great for holding up mana on other players' turns. Not really as good for grinding value, because you would basically need to have like Thrasios specifically, I would say, or like Spinning Kinnan with only creature mana, which that's a lot of mana for creatures.
Yeah.
Because it won't untap your One Ring. It's not going to untap your Chromatic Orrery, for example, if you were passing the turn with that in play. So that's the only problem I have with this. Like, my Derevi brain goes, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Of course we'd want to play this. But my actual, like, no, I need to win the tournament sense says that it's just not... It's almost there, but it's not quite.
It doesn't give creature spells flash.
Yeah, I think that'd be too good.
Yeah, that'd be
That
very,
would be
very
good.
good. And notably, Valley
I
Flood
will
Caller
say-
specifically does not give creature spells flash.
Yeah, I will say, I think I'm somewhat the most experienced with this, because back when, how long ago was the battle set? That was because I was testing Invasion of Segovia for a
Oh
long
yeah.
time. And that one is blue to colorless. You get 2/1/1 squids with trample, which I think is funny. And then if you flip it, it turns into a 4/4 that gives all your non-creature spells convoke. So it's a 3-mana spell that gives you 3 bodies that gives your non-creatures convoke, and that was still like okay. Like this only is 4 mana, but gives your creature spells convoke. Yeah, we have more creatures than non-creatures, but like it not giving the bodies also really hurts it.
This would
And
be
I was already
decent
like,
paired with something like Final Word Phantom.
yeah, I could see that. Or if you have something like if your meta is as really bad against a charismatic conqueror or someone like you pump out tokens a lot, I can see you wanting this because just using the tokens to be able to pump your convoke is also like really good. But like
True.
other than that, it's like you're spending 4 mana and then you probably go to combat and like, okay, cool, I have my Bloom Tender can convoke for something or something like that, or like my Derevi can convoke for something.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like I said, it just feels a little awkward, right?
yeah, it's really awkward. But that was my thought with Invasion of Segovia, and that I think Invasion of Segovia is a lot better than this because like I said, that gives you 3 bodies by itself. But
Well, that
time will
concludes
tell.
our Duskmourn set review. And I know that we've had multiple people from the Discord asking, hey, I'm new to this deck. I'm a refugee from another deck after the bans. To which I will say, one, welcome. We really hope you enjoy the list. That's why we do this all for you guys. And then two, how the hell do I mulligan this deck? What the fuck is banned? Very
Yeah,
similarly, or very easily, there's just some generic tips for you. But step one, make sure you have all 3 colors. That sounds really stupid, but like you are keeping a very solid hand. That is, if you're not trying to cast Derevi on like turn 2. You're trying to rush out Derevi as soon as possible and abuse that ETB with some sort of effect. Whether that's, turn 1 Utopia Sprawl to get a 2-drop out on turn 2. If you can power out a Bloom Tender on turn 1 with like a Mox Diamond or something, then you follow up with a second land. That's 6 mana on turn 2. Like, usually you want an early burst, followed by something to actually convert that mana into some value, and probably some card draw of some kind, because our commander does not say, draw a card. Hopefully you have know your line from that point, or at least know how to assemble your lines to actually get to closing out the game and killing your opponents. But that's at least my methodology for mulling. Do you guys have any thoughts to add on that?
I mean, mostly it's just you phrased it very well. It's you want to have a land or two to. I play a little lower land count, so a land or two to be able to accelerate or to play your spells. You want a source of acceleration to be able to abuse your Derevi, your first ETB or attack triggers after, and then you want to have a game plan to go with it, either being like a birthing pod, a spell seeker, a clone to be able to use the mana dump, uh, what like something to use the combat mana on, being a Nexus of Fate, Shared Summons, Cyclonic Rift, something like that. You
Yeah.
just have to map out how your turns you think are going to go as you're mulliganing.
Yeah, biggest thing, turn 2 Derevi is always good. Turn 2 Derevi, and then something to do after. Card advantage, tutors.
Interaction.
Interaction is okay. If you don't have at least a tutor to go with it to generate a card advantage creature, it's rough. I'll take 2 tutors, because 2 tutors is a possible win. 1 tutor is a card advantage piece, so unless it's a good enough tutor to get one of my card advantage creatures like Polywog or something, I don't really go for that. But turn 2 Derevi, some form of card advantage or selection, whether it's a tutor, and then after that, interaction, match specific cards, things that are good against whatever you're playing against. That fills out the rest of your slots. So, I mean, you're looking at 3 to 4 cards for your turn 2 Derevi, a card for card advantage, and you got 2 to 3 cards to decide on. And hopefully you're not mulling down below 5, because we play Bant, and if you're going below 5, you're going to be crying about it later, and I wish you the best of luck, because your 4-card hand is probably your last option. Don't mull it away unless it has no land. Trust me on that one. And even then, probably don't mull it away.
Yeah, I can see that. I will also say read your pod. If you're playing against Rogsai and Equicrom, or not Equicrom, Equidargo, because that's still somewhat of a deck, and another Turbo Nos deck. You want to be mulling more for stuff to stop those decks, not more of your game plan. Because if they're winning on turn 2, turn 3 before you're even getting done setting up, it's pointless what you mulligan for at that point.
And with that, that'll be the end of our episode 3. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be in the Discord. You can leave YouTube comments for any feedback for us. Let us know what you think. Let us know what challenges you're having with the deck. Hopefully we can help you out. And we're always happy to talk Bird. We'll catch you later, and you all have a great day.